Live, local, late breaking. This is KEZI 9 News at 11.
When Mr. Babb brought the rifle to bear on him so that the officer could actually see the hole in the end of the barrel, the officer fired.
New details tonight into an officer-involved shooting that left a Eugene veteran dead. The Lane County District Attorney says after a thorough evaluation of the evidence, that shooting was justified. Thank you for joining us tonight. I am Brian Richardson. Today's ruling comes more than 4 weeks after an officer shot and killed Brian Babb. He was a veteran who suffered from PTSD. Eugene police responded to Babb's Bethel area home on March 30th. His therapist called police saying he was suicidal and had already fired one shot inside of the house. EPD brought in an armored car. That's when the district attorney says Babb walked out of his front door with a rifle and pointed it at officers on the armored car. The officer shot, then fatally wounding Babb. Tonight, we're also getting our first listen to the conversation between the therapist and dispatchers. KEZI 9 News reporter Sarah Hurwitz continues our top story coverage here at 11 o'clock.
911, what's the address of the emergency?
I'm a therapist, and I'm calling about a client who I have on another line, on my regular landline at my office. He's got a 9mm gun. He just shot once through the ceiling, I think he said.
5:06 p.m., March 30th. Therapist Becky Higgins calls 911, worried about Army veteran Brian Babb.
He's going to freak. He's got a round in the chamber. He won't take it out. He's not saying I'm going to shoot myself right now, but he's refusing to take it out, and he's telling me he wants to go back to combat, which is, I'm going to go back, I'm going to die right now so I can get back there.
A frantic call from the 49-year-old veteran who his family says suffered from PTSD and a traumatic brain injury. Posted inside this house, Higgins feared he was about to harm himself, saying he'd been yelling, quote, "You're not going to do this to me."
He had taken the clip out of his gun. He told me he'd taken the round out of the chamber. He told me that. He swore to me he had 2 different occasions. He told me that. I checked back. So I think he had, but then he reminded me how fast he could reload. But I haven't heard anything like a shot.
After several minutes of going back and forth between the 911 dispatcher and a separate line with Babb, a crisis negotiator was at the home ready to intervene. Higgins desperately asked for one thing.
This guy, I've been seeing him. I could go there. I could do anything. I just can't have him die.
I understand that. No one wants him to be hurt at all, honestly.
We learn later of the unfortunate ending, one that haunts Babb's family, but ultimately ruled justified by the DA. In Eugene, Sarah Hurwitz, KEZI 9 News.
Thank you, Sarah. This entire incident, from the time the therapist called police to the deadly gunshot, took less than an hour. In that time, Babb came to the door unarmed several times, yelling profanities at police. That's a main point of contention here for Babb's family members, who says this entire incident could have had a much more peaceful outcome. The district attorney says that is just not the case.
There's so many alternative actions all through the way that if one single decision had been made differently, he would be here instead of in the ground.
If you're the sergeant in the driveway then and trying to figure out what your options are when the guy is in an elevated position and has the view of the neighborhood, maybe he's a nice guy who's not a threat and he's just in crisis. Or maybe he's like one of the many other veterans who are so in crisis that they go killing people.
The report by the investigating agency says after the shooting, police discovered the rifle Babb pointed at the officer was not, in fact, loaded. This case will have a lasting impact here in the Eugene area. Police already evaluating how they respond to veterans in crisis. We will continue to reach, or how they're going to continue to reach out to veterans. You can count on KEZI 9 News to follow this story. We're going to have all of this information online, KEZI.com, as well as our social media pages.